Hello, I'm Jody Wolf. You're watching Expoz, June 13, 2016 at 2:27 a.m. Birmingham. And the topic, the Roswell, New Mexico crash and Operation Paperclip. Did they have ties? I think they did. So let me go on and get to my letter here, my note. I've been thinking about that. Just something I ran across one day, and just, I guess, a small article about the UFO and in proximity to other places that were hot spots that we were not accessible to or couldn't have access to. So I'm wondering. Operation Paperclip is when the United States, in its spoils of war, they took 1,500 scientists from Germany and brought them here. They were brought here in October 1, 1945, and they were dispersed different places. He specifically was with the rocket science part of it. He was leading that team. Not saying he was the best of the team, but he was the knowledgeable one that we look at and see that he was the number one guy. Maybe, maybe not, but in any case, why did the UFO crash in Roswell on July 3rd, 1947? Did he have prior ties with them? And I'm going to say it's possible because go back and look at the crazy things that Hitler could do that were so far ahead of everyone that, people had to wonder, how did he get this information? Well, you got to remember that there was 366 books of Enoch. We have two. Some people say that the Vatican, there may be one or two, maybe more, and maybe a lot more. And the same place, they found two of them, I think, in that cave. I think there was a lot more there. Where they are, I think most of them are hidden away with the rest of the goods, the Ark of the Covenant, the menorah, the chalice, and these things, the harp. I think they're there. I think they're hidden away, and I think the Jews know exactly where they are, and they're up under the temple area. And I think they're well protected. They're not in a mud hole on Oak Island. That's where they are. And but the books, just as if this man stole the Spear of Destiny from Hitler. Hitler stole it from someone else. Well, what about the books of Enoch? Out of the number of books, we have only two that we can read, but Enoch wrote down and did describe in the two that you can read of the things that taught men the art of war, how to make weapons, how to do metal, the metalworking, and gold and silver and copper and brass and iron, and how to mix these things, the right temperature. They were taught all that, and it came out of the books of Enoch because Enoch wrote down each book that God told him to write down, 366 over a time period, and by a miracle, by a pen that God gave him, Enoch just placed his hand on the tablet, and boy, it went right, and he wrote from left to right. Right to left. That's where he wrote. That's in the Torah. That's in everything that you read. And anyway, and the Jews in their Bible, everything is from right to left. And ours is left to right. It seems like everything east of a point is one way and west of a point is another way. But anyway, you have these books, and they're not lost. They're hidden. But a couple of them got out, and I think a couple of them was enough to learn how to do a lot of things. One of them being build rockets. One of them being how to give your soul to Satan and let him give you the things you desire. And why Hitler desired to be a horrible man that killed tens of millions of people, I don't know. But, that's their choice. July 3, 1947, the UFO crashed in Roswell, New Mexico. October 1, 1945, von Braun, along with 1,500 scientists, were brought to America. Operation Paperclip, spoils of war. And von Braun knew a lot, surprisingly, a whole lot that other people didn't know. And so he had this knowledge that we hadn't even heard of. And he made it work in trial and error, of course. But they had things built in Germany that did work. So the things that he tried to do here that was similar to that, it took a while to make them work, but I think that was a stall tactic on purpose. The book, if Hitler had one indeed, or even a half of one, or a third or a quarter of one, you don't need much of one of those books beyond books 1 and 2 to have knowledge of DNA splicing, DNA mixing, and take DNA, a seed from a woman, and put it into, merge the two together and grow giants. The fallen angels came over, mated with the daughters of men, and there was giants. And the giants taught them the arts of doing everything. Things that we've not yet heard of. Things that we won't hear of until we get to heaven. So they're that far in advance and thousands of years ahead of us today. So with these things that happened, Roswell, were they coming here looking for von Braun because they had a relationship with him? That's possible. I've not heard anyone talk about it. I've not read it, but it's just something that came across me one day, and I wanted to look into it. Okay, I can't say much more there because there's not too much more to say, except when they crashed in Roswell, they were in close proximity where von Braun was at the time, White Sands. And he was in Fort Bliss, Texas for a time. That's also close proximity to Roswell. So it's ironic that they crashed where they crashed. And, they could have easily crashed in New York or in Washington State, but no, they crashed right there near where von Braun was. So let's end that one, and I want to mention something else. People are advising Donald Trump to kind of drop back a little bit before you punt. Drop back and do a little bit of a change in who you are. Make it softer and gentler, and don't be so forceful. And I say to that, no way. Donald Trump won and got the biggest attraction toward Americans through what he was saying and doing at the time. If he changes, then he's going to lose out those that attract those things he said that attracted people. No, we don't want him to change. And it is those who don't want him as president to change. So you get that. They want him to change in hopes that he'll not win. Well, it's too late. It's in prophecy. Firemen, look, who's going to put their name on the line and be a complete disgrace, but yet call a number of things that would happen 5 years before they did happen, and they were all correct. In fact, they were surprisingly dead on. So Trump should not back up. He should not ease up. he should stay stern and hard-nosed, and just like he treated Kelly on Fox, he didn't mean anything to her. That's his personality. Leave him alone. Let him go with it. That's what wins people. He's doing it by that hardcore stance, and I agree with it, and I want him to stay that way. And one thing I want to say, Paul Ryan keeps saying, well, I got to think about it. I got to think about it. I don't know if I want to vote for him. I say to this, Paul Ryan, go back home. You're not, you don't know what you're doing. Go back home and play with your Tinker toys a little while longer. Get a little bit of age on you. Start shaving, but shut up. You don't know what you're doing. You're like a kid in a candy store. You just don't know which candy to buy yet. So go back home and play with your Tinker toys or a Lego set. Build you something and then come tell us about it later. But until then, shut up. I had to get that in. I think he's a kid. A little boy. He should be wearing shorts. And but think about that. It's just not anything that I read. It's just something that it entered my mind, and it's been working on me a little bit, and I thought the coincidences were too great to dismiss. Jody Wolf Expoz.